So a warm welcome is moving from me from Germany to Australia to Ben Bowler. And I will kind of really share about what your work is about and who you are, and just sharing your introduction, Ben. Ben is the Executive Director of Unity Earth, a global network building a worldwide movement for unity and peace. In October 2015, at the Parliament of World Religions, Ben launched OneGod.com, an online platform aimed at countering religious fundamentalism, relativism, and Western materialism. Since then, he has worked to build Unity Earth into a global platform that can support and empower the many grassroots movements working towards unity and peace in the world. And Ben, I would really love to hear a bit a personal sharing from you. What happened in your life? How did life orchestrate that you felt this calling in your heart to contribute in the way you are contributing right now with this Unity Earth events and platform?
Thank you so much, Puria. It's wonderful to be here with you and here as part of the Conscious Evolution Summit today. So thank you for having me. Well, that's a big question, you know, you're asking right off the bat, so to speak, about how I was called to this work. And it's always such a personal thing, I think, talking about that and then understanding it. And so much of it remains a mystery. And do we choose the mission, or does the mission choose us? How much choice has actually been involved? I know that there is some, but sometimes it doesn't feel like a choice. Sometimes it feels like this path or destiny, and everyone has their own invitation to destiny. Sometimes it feels like it's ordained, and in that sense, the best we can do is just to follow the path and follow the leadings and follow the instructions that we get in different ways in different places. And so I suppose, Puria, that, you know, here today in 2020 has been the consequence of many different journeys and many different experiences and many different opportunities of growth and learning and expansion of my own awareness in this space. So, you know, of course, it started with the family I was born into, like it does for all of us. And I was very blessed, and I am very blessed. My father and mother, both in their own way, really gave me a great spiritual foundation, and have given me a great spiritual foundation between the two of them. Very different, and yet both very important parts of who I am. And I guess my father in particular in my early years really set the scene with his work with Aboriginal Australians, working out in the remote parts of Australia. And through these mystical moments, he discovered discoveries of human remains which changed forever our understanding of how long Aboriginal people have been in this continent of Australia. The discoveries at Lake Mungo, Mungo Man and Mungo Lady in the late 60s and early 70s forever changed our understanding, not only of human occupation in Australia, but the whole human story, and even challenges the kind of simplicity of the out of Africa narrative, and leaves more questions than answers about consciousness and who we are. And so Mungo Man was found in 1972. I was born in 1973. Mungo Man is 44,000-year-old, fully modern, ceremonially buried. And my dad, Jim, who's still alive, he's 90 now. He wasn't looking for human remains, Puria. He's an earth scientist, not an archaeologist. So he was out in a remote area doing climate change studies back in the 60s and 70s on areas which are now, you know, dried lake systems, ancient lakes. And the dunes of these ancient lakes had sort of, after some rain, one day had sort of revealed the tip of a human cranium, which then went on to become Jim Rang, his friends at the Australian National University, who were archaeologists and came out and made these discoveries. Happened twice with Mungo Lady in 1969 and then Mungo Man in 1974. And they were both more than 40,000 years old at a time when scientists thought Australian Aboriginals had been here for 10, 12,000 years. So it was a very radical discovery and very profound. And the Aboriginal women that Jim and the Aboriginal elders that Jim built relationships with, particularly the women, the aunties, would say to him, you didn't find Mungo Lady, you didn't find Mungo Man, they found you. And so there was this very deep mystical aspect to that whole journey. And so I guess, you know, we were born into that, my brothers and sisters, and I was born into that, and in a way that kind of got into my bones and got into my cells, this connection to this ancient mystery. And there were many other journeys. I got to experience being in Western China back in 1985 before any real Westerners were there. It's because of my dad's work, and I was there with my mother and father and one of my sisters. And I was a young 12-year-old kid from the suburbs of Canberra, you know, living out then on the Tibetan plateau and having these amazing experiences with other cultures and other traditions and other ethnic groups. And it was a very expansive experience for me. It really, I think it really, you know, was seminal in helping decide who I am. So always being fascinated by spirituality and religion and culture and how do these things, you know, connect, and where is the truth, and how can there be so much diversity and opinion and yet so much, you know, synergy and similarity at the same time. So that's kind of the beginning of the story, and that was the beginning of the formation of who I am, and you know, that connection to the great mystery, and to you know, the essence, and also I suppose to Puria, the overwhelming sense that so many of us have that we live in a very special time. We live in a very special moment, a turning of the age, not just for this planet, but even in a cosmic sense. There's something very profound about this moment in human history and planetary history. And I feel like I came in with that awareness, and then through the experiences with my family and these amazing opportunities I had to connect deeply to, you know, other cultures, other religions, other spiritual traditions, even back all the way to the oldest living culture on earth, the Australian Aboriginals. So yeah, all of that has in a very deep way informed who I am, and what has led to the work now that is under the banner of Unity Earth.
Thank you so much, Ben, for taking us into your universe, so to speak. And it's always fascinating to really see how life already orchestrated something in your childhood which is relevant, or which kind of gave you some understanding and imprints and experiences which really led you to that what you're doing now. And you mentioned in the beginning that kind of life maybe chooses you more than you choose what you do. And I wonder, I definitely am aware that many people who are listening to us will have similar experience. And I wonder how you, just in your individuality as a person, what supports you in staying receptive to really get this inner guidance to how to move, in which direction, what is the next step? Is there anything what supports you in really getting the maybe downloads or insights to stay on your path?
Yeah, it's a great question, Puria. And I definitely feel like there are so many different ways that God and Spirit connects with us and talks with us. And I think, you know, because of the beauty of the uniqueness of personality, that everyone has their own ways of dancing with that and listening with that, and their own ways of putting the antenna up and getting that guidance. For me, you know, we've been doing events. So Unity Earth is really this series of global events, and it included actually the return to country of Mungo Man in 2017, after more than 44 years finally those human remains were returned back out to their ancestral lands, and Unity Earth was involved in bringing together elders and working with them to celebrate, commemorate that in dance and music and spirituality. We've done all these series of events around the world, which maybe we can talk about, but what gives me the sense that I'm on track or that we're on track is that there becomes something around the event, a kind of a field of it gets a certain quality. I experience it as a divine enthusiasm. When I start to get excited and I can start to feel that joy and rush of yes, this is good, this is juicy, this is rich, this is full of meaning and has got the blessing of spirit behind it. Well, that emotion that I feel and that spirit feeling that I feel gives me the confidence that it is something that has that blessing of spirit guidance behind it. I will say this, everything that's worked for Unity Earth has been graced by that spirit. Mm-hmm. When something, comes from my conscious mind or comes from my own strategic thinking or comes from my own kind of intellectual process, there's a very good chance that it's not going to work. And it doesn't work, even if it's a good idea, even if I think it all makes sense. So there's a distinction between something that comes from that level of our own thinking. Nothing wrong with the rational mind. The rational mind is a great servant, very important. But when it's the origin of something, then, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But when the origin is in the infinite and in the eternal mind and heart of God, the universe of spirit, of whatever we wish to name that, when it has that blessing and authority, then yes, I can start to feel it. I can start to feel it through the divine enthusiasm, the excitement, and then the synchronicities start to connect and the magic starts to rise and the right people come and they assemble to execute the plan. And that's happened again and again and again and again and again and again and again, to a point now where I really can start to feel that quality when it's alive in the field.
And I really feel it now. And I just want to give our audience the opportunity to really open, not just listen to what Ben is sharing, but really, if you haven't felt it, maybe just go a bit back in the recording, because the energy Ben is describing, you are describing, Ben, is really very present. I sense it also as almost as an electric voltage. There is an electricity happening there and an uplifting and a movement of expansion and vibrating. And what you describe is also, when I'm in such a field, the wants, the needs, the limitations of the personality, they just shrink and you expand and you feel much bigger, and you feel that a force is moving through you, a force takes you. And from the perspective of the personality, when the mind shifts there, it can be, ooh, that's really big. I don't know, if I can be of service for that, because you can't control it. You can't really manage it or handle it. What you can do is kind of like being like a boat in a current, in a stream, in a river, and go with it. And just also be open and aware where still your activity is needed in that stream. It's not just laying down and, being totally passive, but that's for me really this divine co-creation process. And I want to highlight it because I sense that this way of being in life and operating is really called forth in what you said, this unique time we are now in. This will become, I sense, if we are not able to move like that and to co-create with life like that, it will become very painful and doesn't work at all.
Yes, absolutely, Puria. And it has become very painful and doesn't work at all for millions and millions and millions of people these days, this year in particular, as we know. And yeah, that's a really interesting both and between allowing spirit to come through and then also being diligent about what's our part, what's our role. It is a co-creation, and we are required. We are necessary to do stuff, whatever that may mean. Those emails and those phone calls and those documents that are created, and the conversations that are had, and the follow up and the follow through, and everything else that needs to take place. Of course, that has to happen. We can't just kind of sit back. I love the analogy of the boat. I think it's a beautiful one. And maybe even particularly a sailing boat, because you've got these divine winds that are blowing, and how do we harness that, and how do we navigate that? And then sometimes and often enough, we're in the doldrums, as they say, in the doldrums where the wind is not blowing, and that's when it's really interesting, because then we're really, that discernment and that patience and that not knowing and that kind of disintegration of our own sense of confidence and our own sense of self is a real part of the becoming process. And I think that, in learning the faith and trust and practice and mindsets and character to really be able to grow, we can't just have it easy all the time, right? Yeah. There does need to be challenges for us to meet and to overcome. And there's no shortage of challenges on our world at this moment, or even individually for us, that we each face. So I guess just a message to anyone out there that, yes, it's wonderful when you're in the divine flow and the wind is blowing and you're in the boat and you're navigating and amazing things that happen. That is wonderful. And yet it's not always like that. There are times when it's you can't hear the voice, and you can't get that consolation, and we don't have that sense of joy and enthusiasm and peace. And that's okay too. That doesn't mean that you're not doing well. That doesn't mean that you're not on track. It just means that we have something to learn, and we have something to master. And I think that's an important part of the journey too, Puria, is that there has been a lot of light, and there's also been, a certain amount of shadow as well. And I think, being able to accept that, and to accept our humanity, as well as to embrace our inherent relationship to divinity, and being able to do both those, I feel is really the calling and the mastery that we are called to step into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And just still adding something to our metaphor with the sailing boat, because sometimes I hear this concept from people, when I'm on the right path, everything needs to be easy, then I know that I'm in the flow. But I can't agree to that. I mean, sometimes it is easy, but I can also be totally on the track, and it's very difficult. It seems to be many obstacles. It can be very stormy. I can come at the limits of my capacity, so to speak, and maybe be expanded and surprised to notice, my capacity is growing, I'm bigger. So I would really like to be careful when you use this it's kind of a conditioning. It's right when it's easy. I challenge that. And how is it in your experience, Ben?
I couldn't agree with you anymore, Puria. And blessings to those people who are in flow and everything's coming easy and it's all graced, and that's wonderful. And that's a beautiful state. But my experience is very much the same as yours, which is that the true work is takes effort, and it takes commitment, and it takes discipline. And it's a lot of work. And really, in order to create something of value, I think also, too, there's a truth that something of value has got to be measured by really what's gone into its creation. And if something, was really easy, it might be beautiful, really easy. But that's a very different to something that really was a labor of love and a labor of commitment and a groaning, like a childbirth of giving, some new creation in the world. And then it comes this thing through this arduous path, which, and my experience is creation's much more like that than the ease and flow kind of everything's easy. So I agree with you absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we want to be, just the last thing that I would say is that people would say that's a limiting belief.
Mm-hmm.
If you say that it's hard. Well, that might be true, but it's just my experience after many years is that it does take effort and hard work in order to really achieve something of great value.
Yeah, and then in a way, it's also kind of my attitude towards it. Do I accept that it's sometimes hard work, and I don't judge it as wrong? And I mean, the metaphor which just arose now when I was listening was, if you imagine you start on a poor land, starting building a garden and an ecosystem kind of, that's also for some years, maybe a lot of work goes into it. You see just tiny plants, you need to water a lot, you can't harvest. It can take years that you really see the fruits of your impact into what you are doing. So yeah, and maybe some fruits you see already after 2 weeks, they are already big. So all this, as you mentioned, diversity in the beginning and uniqueness, and in all of that we have this fast and slow and hard and easy, and just everything is part of this process. Yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful way to put it. And if somebody is in a creative process where there is a tremendous amount of flow, which means there's great synchronicities and things like magically are coming together, that is a beautiful part of the process, and that's to be embraced and celebrated and welcomed. And so we love all of it, Puria, don't we? We love the fully grace bits, we love the challenging bits, we love the tough bits, and even the really painful bits in time we'll come to look back and love. And so often, you'll see that those times of crisis have become the time of great transformation in an individual life. And now we see it at a planetary level, where it is a great time of crisis, where we either need to transform radically, entirely as a planet, or we are on the path of destruction. So being able to welcome all elements of the creative process and to bless all stages of the journey, I think is a healthy place to be.
Mm-hmm. And you already brought in this fact of transformation, and I wonder what do you sense, or what is personally for you really that what calls you? Where do you want to help to transform, and what would be kind of best outcomes with what you offer in your events, or bringing different religion, cultures, leaders together? In which way does it transform, and into what can we transform? What do you see?
Beautiful. There are so many incredible people that are working on solutions, technological, ecological, economical, political, whole systems design. I know that there is a tremendous amount of energy and genius that is here on the planet now, ready to really recreate and design and to implement and manifest these new systems for a world that's based upon different principles than what's brought us to where we are today. My part of that is really quite personal, Puria, in that for me, I feel like it's really about the individual's connection to God and spirit and, higher mind, however we wish to understand it, what its source. I know a lot of people are comfortable with that term, but it's really about that primary, I guess, vertical relationship. And that there's been a lot of damage done to that by religion, by certain philosophies and secularization and materialism, and that understanding of our relationship to the divine, whether it's seen through a view of like we are emanations of that source, or whether it's seen as we are children of God, or however the concept is, most easily accessible to people. But for me, it's that primary vertical relationship that is the foundation, our understanding of who we are in the cosmos, our understanding of who we are in relationship to each other, and our understanding of who we are really to that original spiritual reality, from which that we have that awakening to that essence. And then all of these other aspects about how we treat each other, ethics, economics, politics, how we're treating the planet, our entire consciousness is transformed. And so for me, it's, my part of it, you've asked a very personal question. My part of it is that spiritual awakening to our relationship to God and to spirit and to source. And that in that understanding and that evolutionary process of driving forward the understandings of, our tribal religions, and driving forward our understandings of our bigger philosophies and our broader understandings into something that is truly cosmic and can hold that sacredness and that grace and the divine mystery of who we are in a way which completely transforms everything else. That's what really excites me and calls me. That's my piece that I'm very turned on by.
And Ben, in your words, how would you describe who are we?
Well, that's for everyone to, go on a journey and figure out. I think words are problematic, Puria, when we're getting to that level of truth. It's really experience. So calling people to an experience, and that's what we've been doing for 10 years or so. We have programs in Thailand, which was monk for a month, and giving people an experience of Buddhism. We had programs in Turkey, which was Muslim for a month, giving people an experience of Anatolian Islam and Rastafarian spirituality, and just letting people experience all these different entry points into this great journey. And it doesn't matter which entry point you come in through. Germany, like Australia, is a very secular culture here in Australia. So, I've been really wanting people to explore the deeper part of who we are. I can't, use my words to tell people who they are. It's really an invitation to come and take an experience and find that out for yourself. That's really much more interesting and much more exciting.
Mm-hmm. I totally understand that, and I get that it's very unique, but still, is there anything what you notice when people are opening to that experience and kind of taking, walking through this invitation and a portal where they would expand and where they would experience deeper levels of who they are? Is there anything in common what you sense when you are in a field like that, when you provide a space where people tap into, let's say, an expanded state of consciousness? How does the space shift? How do you personally notice or register that, and what does it do to you?
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, the philosopher Ken Wilber talked about this waking up and talks about waking up and growing up. So the waking up process, the waking up moment, that spiritual transformation or enlightenment radically changes our lens of how we look at everything. And so it really is the thing in which everything changes with that spiritual consciousness moment. Now, of course, the challenge is not to be drawn back down by the gravity of our cultures and by our other biological kind of processes back into a state that we were in before. Waking up is no guarantee of growing up. And that's a very interesting kind of dialectic between those two elements. But in terms of the spiritual transformation, when people experience it, it's so powerful, particularly when it's in a group experience where that consciousness is raised, that you talked about at the beginning, that vibration is raised. The way we see everything changes. The way we see each day is radically different. The physiological changes, even people's health and vitality and the glow that emanates from their being, is visibly different when they're in that awakening process. And then, in order to be in that flow of, in that joy of, in that moment of acceptance of who we are, it really is, I feel, the thing that changes everything. So, by changing the way we look at the world, we totally transform the world and ourselves in that process, as long as we then have the commitment and the maturity to follow up and follow through and do the work, as we've been talking about on this discussion period, to do the work of actually growing up as well as we walk along. So it's a beautiful step between the waking up consciousness expansion and then the follow-up part of growing up and maturing into mature spiritual beings.
Absolutely. And what I notice is also that often when we enter into that deeper realizations, there comes a wish to really to express more care, to kind of, and how that is translated in each other's life can be very different. But this wish to care for others, for environment, for the earth, for a garden, for whatever, that I sense. And there was something else. Let's just see if I can bring it back. And then there was this, my sense is also when we then, we become something different, what you expressed, and I see I see us individuals then giving a different kind of nutrition into the field. So we feed the field with a different food, with a different vibration, with a different way of being, and then kind of really changing the collective field and changing something much bigger beyond our individuality. So it's really this interrelatedness.
Yes.
And I also wonder, what relevance do you see? Because we can have kind of moments where we are just on our own and maybe seeing a beautiful sunset or meditating or being with our children, where we could have moments of expansion and of where our heart opens and of depth. But there is something different when we come together and when we are in a large group and experiencing that. And you are much more into that than I am. You visited and organized many of such events. What relevance do you see in when many people come together with that spirit and that deep wish to explore?
No, it's wild. It's wildly beautiful and powerful and uplifting, and you feel like you really can collectively change the world and change everything. Invincible, because in that spirit of that power, it really is limitless. I love the way you described the relationship between the individual and the collective there. It's so true. So is the field creating the individual, or is the individual creating the field? And of course, that's both true. Just like a culture, just like we are products of our culture, but we are also agents of our culture as well. It's what's exciting about co-creating Europe and the work that's being done, and the Caravan of Unity in America and in Europe. These are agents of creation, of reculturalization, spiritualizing and transforming and elevating cultures. So the work that we've done, Puria, has been bringing diverse groups together to sacred places around the world. And the Rift Valley in Ethiopia, up to Lalibela, to the holy city of Varanasi in India, to the outback of Australia, and beautiful Colorado deserts in Crestone, Colorado, as well as the Holy Land itself on the Jordan River Valley, and bringing, like seriously diverse spiritual communities together. And it is, it's wild. There's no other word for it. It's so powerful and deep and exciting. And then we're using music very, very consciously and intentionally, using music to express and celebrate and come together in these musical experiences. And so the combination of spirituality and music and sacred sites and spiritual diversity, and it's quite a recipe. And it's definitely given everyone who's touched it that feeling of transcendence and that feeling of transformation and that feeling that actually we can continue to spread this fire of one love around the world in different ways. So a very powerful experience, very peak experience during the events.
We Aboriginal people are universal. Our dreaming doesn't separate heaven from earth, as we are connected to the universe from the ground, our mother, to the trees, to the animals, to the sky, to the stars, to the sun and the moon.
I can hear their calling as they ride through me their song, and I can feel their spirits as they're singing me back home to travel across the land of our people still so strong to take it either back to where he belongs. So let's stand up together. Bring your totems to our fire. Let's stand up together and bring the spirit back to life as we place them in the sand. Like the eagles, they're so high. Let's stand up together as our tribes all unite. UNITY spells a unity. UNITY.
We are born with connection to our ancestors through our blood. Our hearts beat the same, whether or not we are conscious of it. Our ancestor spirit carries it and is connected to our spirits, just as every generation before. Our blood and our spirit is our key, not the colour of our skin.
One by one we'll take it to the top. A message from my dream. Till we get there, we won't stop. Won't you sing with me, my sister? Yes, sing with me, my friend. Sing with me, my brother. Sing it to a brother, man. As one till the end. Let's stand up together. Bring your totems to our fire. Let's stand up together and bring the spirit back to life as we place them in the sand. Like the eagle, they're so high. Let's stand up together as our tribes all unite. Well, U is for universal unity, and negotiations for peace are necessary. I is instill international integrity to turn the tides of tyranny. Why? 'Cause that's the way it should be when we all stand together universally.
Close your eyes and imagine it. Feel it as your spirit comes into consciousness. Connect to your ancestors. No matter where you are, you will always have your connection to your country and your ancestors, as your ancestor spirit will never leave you. Trust in it and let it guide you. We are all brothers and sisters in the global community. Let us unite. Justice, peace, harmony for all.
Let's stand up together. Bring your totems to our fire. Let's stand up together and bring that spirit back to life as we place them in the sand. Like the eagle, they're so high. Let's stand up together as our tribes all unite. UNITY spells a unity. UNITY spells a unity. UNITY.
And the beautiful thing is there's been lasting, deep lasting bonds, friendship, family, even feelings between everybody who's been on those journeys. So very, very powerful. And, you know, we're yet to see exactly where it's going from here, but it feels like we're expanding and connecting with other groups and other communities and other creators. And somehow all these little rivers are starting to come together and become something very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm. And Ben, I wonder if a person or someone kind of having a network, kind of back being maybe a director of an organization or network and maybe feeling resonance with what you are sharing, which are the ways how to be maybe involved in something or co-create with you or contribute, or what could be possible if people would like to participate in something you offer?
Sure. Well, unity.earth is a site you can go to. You can contact us, of course, through the website. People are welcome to contact me directly at ben@unity.earth if they wish to continue the conversation. And let's see where it can flow and where it can take us. Who knows what adventures will be beyond 2020. We've been on this, we've called it the Road to 2020, Puria. We launched it in October 2016 at the UN Chapel, the Interfaith Tillman Chapel in New York. And this was the series of global events which has brought us all around the world, all the way to now. And the Caravan of Unity across America was always the kind of climactic moment building up to Peace Weekend, which in September. So what's next? What's before us? Who can say? But we'd love to connect with people that want to share a vision or see, you know, how we might be able to connect and work together in the future.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say? I mean, I was just a week ago, I was in a network meeting, and from one person in the network, there was this concern that when we maybe come together in events and festivals and music and celebration, that it's maybe a bit too new agey and just a bit too much only, you know, being happy and celebrating, and maybe we forget the seriousness of our situation and maybe the shadows and politics. And what is your take on this perspective? What would be your response if someone would come to you with that concern?
Okay, I mean, like I said before, the rational mind and the rational brain has got a role to play. But you know, if it's been a good few hundred years since the Enlightenment, if our commitment to the rational perspective was going to fix things, then it would have happened by now. So I think that there is a case for trying something different, for trying something which is celebrating, for trying something which is energetically uplifting. And you know, those people that are being connected to this field, many of them run NGOs, many of them are heads of organizations which do incredibly grounded work, from poverty alleviation to peace, conflict resolution, to working with poorer communities right around the world, Africa and India and other places. So there are people doing very grounded aspects of the work, which of course is important. And yet when we come together in this spirit, which transforms us and transforms us as a collective, you can't measure the impact of that has on people. As Buckminster Fuller said, you know, don't just fight the system, but recreate something that's better at a higher level of consciousness. And I think that transcends the current levels of the problems. And it feels like that's where the resonance for us is. And bless everyone who's working on the problems at the level of consciousness that created them. But we're also inviting people to go to a higher level of consciousness, like Einstein guided, that the problems can't be solved at the same level that created them. So we need to transform ourselves, transform our worldview, and get to a higher state of consciousness so we can shoulder to the wheel in a real way, solve the manifold problems that we have on this planet.
Thank you so much for sharing, in this case, your perspective. And I just wonder, we are coming to the end of our time together, but I mean, in the last years, we had viewers from about 45 countries joining this Conscious Evolution Summit, maybe this year even more. when you tune into our field and you are part of the evolutionary leaders as well, and when you now sense people really all over the globe connecting to this space and connecting to our conversation, what would you like to highlight and to share with these people spread all over the globe with this? I would say there is quite a tremendous quality of caring in them already. Otherwise, they wouldn't join the summit and these conversations. But what would you like to say to them?
Beautiful, Puria. Well, so much. There's so much to say and so much to share. I think really we need to be better versions of ourselves. We need to be better versions of our cultures, better versions of our traditions. And that really means going to the heart of the many lineages that we are carrying. Each human is carrying so many different lineages and ancestors and different lines, and these convergence of these different elements coming together to really be that faith and hope and love, and to embody that at a deep, deep level, to believe that transformation is possible, is happening, and to maintain that spirit of optimism with each other and encourage each other, because these are tough times and it's easy for people to lose that hope. But I think that those spiritual values that are carried in our traditions and carried in our teachings and carried in our hearts, in our understandings, we need them more than ever. And we need to be better embodiment of those very spiritual values: faith, hope, love, courage, trust, peace, all of this, justice, all of this. Now we need to be the champions of and the ambassadors of, and the committed embodiment of that in the world, which is crying out for it. And as we do that together in collective fields like Conscious Evolution Summits and these other beautiful gatherings and convenings, to really, let's go to the next level of depth with our own spiritual values. Let's go to the next level of commitment with our own missions and our own knowing deep inside ourselves. And as enough of us do that and show up in that place and in that space, then the radical transformation that we all know is upon us can really become from the inside out and really conquer this world in love and in beauty and in truth.
And then just a tiny challenge at the end. So if you would connect to our reality, let's say 50 years from now, what would you like to see when you connect to that? What would be kind of the best version of expressing just what you invited us into in 50 years from now?
Yeah. Well, 50 years is not long, of course. And we need to, not make the mistake of feeling like, in 50 years, everything will be beautiful and perfect. That may not be the case. And yet, I think it is possible that in 50 years, an enlightened planetary culture is possible. Enlightened planetary governance, enlightened planetary stewardship of the natural world, enlightened planetary education systems, and a deeper sense of a global spiritual culture, a worldwide spiritual culture, which honors all traditions and all lineages and all different elements of human history and society and culture. And in that honoring of all of them doesn't lose the essence of any of them. I believe that's possible. I've seen that, that's already here. And it just needs to really grow and to become the dominant reality, in dominance in the sense of the prevailing reality. So I see it: enlightened planetary culture, enlightened planetary governance, and a worldwide spiritual culture.
Thank you so much, Ben. And I just want to highlight the power of us holding such an image and such a vision because it already exists. It only wants to be visible in our world we can grasp and we can hold, and in this density, but it's already there when we have this vision and when we feel it, because when I tune into that and open myself, it's a surprise that I don't see it 100% yet. I mean, I see a lot. I'm very much connected to people and networks which are really expressing that already. But yeah, so yeah, when you're listening to our conversation, I just want to encourage you to use this power to take part and to support the manifestation of what we know that is possible. And thank you, Ben, for being in such a beautiful, authentic way with us, sharing your perspectives, sharing your history, sharing what you are passionate to co-create. It was really so wonderful to be with you in that space. And yeah, thank you for that, making space in your schedule. I know that it's a lot happening.
Oh, Puria, it's been an honor to be with you. I really, really enjoyed the discussion and the field that you have created here in this space, and the Consciousness Summit is blessed, and may it be ever more blessed this year and beyond. So it's been a privilege for me to be with you today and to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you so much, Ben, and a big thank you goes also to you joining us in this conversation. And yeah, keep the vision and feel the aliveness, be available that spirit can really move through you and play your unique instrument. And I hope to see you also in the next conversation. Bye for now and see you later.